Dear atheist, as a theist, as a Christian, I want to ask you to stop doing 10 things, okay?
Well, okay, but it's going to be 10 things that I didn't want to do anyway, so no more going to bed before 10, no more getting up before midday, and certainly no more taking theists like you seriously. Although, to be fair, I wasn't doing that in the first place, so it's a win-win. I mean, seriously, maybe don't come in telling people what to do just because you don't want them to, especially when your reasons for having them stop are really, really stupid and incredibly self-serving.
10 things is what I'm imploring you to stop doing when talking to or debating with a Christian, someone like me.
Is it just me, or does this guy seem just a little bit upset? Presumably, he's been arguing with atheists all day, and they have been making him feel like a big dum-dum, and he would really like them to stop, but there is an easy solution to that. Stop saying really stupid things to them. Maybe say non-stupid things. I know, it's a wild idea.
First off, stop claiming that theists or Christians have the burden of proof for proving God's existence.
But you do? What are you talking about? Most positive claims, especially extraordinary ones, are generally the ones that you have the burden of proof for. If I tell you I can fly by the power of my own ultra-dense farts, you are under no obligation to prove that I can't actually do that, especially if I refuse to provide a demonstration of me doing so. And when it comes to gods, you know, that extraordinary claim, me not believing in the nonsense man that no one can agree on the characteristics of or present any actual demonstration of his existence, is more than enough. I don't have to disprove shit.
How burden of proof works is anybody making a claim has to back that claim up. So if I were to say God does exist, I do have the burden of proof. I will have to try to prove that.
Yes, exactly. But again, it's the extraordinariness of the claim that adds to that, since there are positive claims that do not require you to do so. Like, if you told me that you have parents, that is such a common, normal experience that, frankly, no one is going to question it. But if I were to respond, well, actually, I don't believe you have parents, and I will never accept the idea that two humans came together to produce offspring and created you, that would be an extraordinary thing to say and believe. That would be something that one might expect. I had some pretty extraordinary evidence that demonstrated your parent claim false. Perhaps I had discovered that you were built in a lab, or that you are an alien laughing as a human, or something equally weird. But if I had none of those, everyone is well within their rights to tell me that I am full of it. Which they do, but the it is always whiskey.
If you say God does not exist, you are making a claim, and you have to prove that argument right there.
Well, aside from the fact that the vast majority of atheists will not say that, they will say they don't believe the claims of theists vis-a-vis God. But more importantly, saying there doesn't seem to be a God is not extraordinary, because if one has never met a God, never seen magic happen, and lives on a world that has no demonstrable evidence for the existence of the supernatural, it's fair to say, yeah, that sounds like bullshit to me.
Second thing. Please stop saying that Christians have a blind faith. There is nothing about Christianity that requires, or even that God asks for, a blind faith.
What exactly is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen, if not a request to do a bit of blind faithing? But fine, okay. If you want me to stop calling it blind faith, stop believing things on faith. Believe them on evidence. And no, I don't just mean the first thing that you find that you think sounds like it proves your belief. I mean like good evidence. And then we'll be golden.
We're told in the book of Romans, we're told in Psalm 19, creation bears witness to the Creator.
Oh, of course, it's not just bad evidence, it's barely evidence at all. No, my friend, you see what you're doing there is having faith, blind faith even, that shit isn't made up nonsense. And unfortunately, it more than likely is. It is untestable, and more importantly, is easily refuted by science. Creation, as far as we can tell, isn't creation at all. It wasn't created, it formed. And only those with blind faith seem to believe otherwise, mate.
We are told that the conscience and the law is written onto our hearts. And again, those provide evidences of a creator.
And yet, for some reason, those things written on hearts are seemingly different, even if only slightly in many cases, to each other, and in other cases, very, very different. But what's worse is that you probably have slavery bad written on your heart. But unfortunately, God seems to disagree with you on that point for some reason.
How blind faith works is non-existence. You put faith in something that you can't see, you don't have evidence for, and I don't believe that's the God of Christian scripture.
In fact, you have such faith in your belief that that is not the God of Christian scripture that you will accept terrible arguments for his existence and present them as if they are proof for anything other than your utter blind faith. Good job.
Matter of fact, with evidence, we have the same evidence. We have creation, we have the conscience, the abstract concepts of thought and love and things like that.
Well, naming something the thing you want it to be, aka creation, is not the same as evidence. It's slippery apologetics bullshit. Everyone else calls it the universe, and just because it exists only proves it appears to exist. And as for all the abstract things, the existence of things that mostly function in brains does not suddenly prove a supernatural being beyond the universe. All of them can be explained via natural phenomena, and mostly as evolutionary adaptations, things that made humans highly successful in the endless fight that is natural selection.
So we take these evidences, it's called circumstantial evidence, indirect evidence, and we find out through abductive reasoning which is most reasonable to attribute this to a god or to material or naturalistic explanations.
Oh, come on, it's not circumstantial, it's just evidence. And for you, again, bad ones. Well, considering that we see no gods anywhere at all, but nature everywhere, and it's able to explain almost everything so far, and those it hasn't often get explained eventually, often pushing God done it out. So I'm going to go with the one that isn't constantly being proven wrong.
At the end of the day, you got to answer yourself one question. Did mind come from matter, or did matter come from mind?
Well, that's obviously meaningless, quippy bullshit, but considering minds are made from matter, well, let's just say I might have a guess. In fact, we're both guessing, really, but considering we have found no disembodied minds, I'm going to say your guess is not a very good one.
The third thing, please stop denying the fact that you have a worldview, okay? If you're an atheist, you may not have what's called an atheistic worldview, and I understand that, but you do hold to a secular worldview, one that is not of God and does not have God in it at all.
That was just so much what? First, no atheist says they don't have a worldview, at least none of them that know what a worldview is. But what I think you're confusing is that they will tell you that atheism isn't a worldview. And you seem to understand that, but just haven't understood that that is what is being communicated to you. And of course, atheist worldviews don't tend to contain God bans. It would be very weird if they did.
With this worldview, it is not tenable. It is not livable in society because it breeds subjectivity and relativism. It doesn't show sacredness of human life like the Christian worldview does, that God created us, me and you, in his image.
There are plenty of non-religious societies that treat human life with the utmost respect. So what the hell are you talking about? And of course, plenty of fully religious nations that are human rights nightmares. So really, what the hell are you talking about? And none of this has anything to do with these made-up atheists who think they don't have worldviews. Don't make me say it again.
There's a sacredness, there's a sanctity of life.
Well, unless of course you're paying attention to the things God says about how you all suck, and he's the very best, and his habit of wiping out people and dehumanizing the people he doesn't like, you know. Oh, and if you get into the heaven things, you get to be his slaves forever. Super life-loving shit, that.
4. Please stop saying evil disproves God. Because at best, the presence of evil would maybe discredit his character. It may show that he's a malevolent God. It may show that he's not loving and caring.
That is absolutely astounding. You have utterly missed the forest for the trees. No one who understands the problem of evil thinks that it disproves gods in general. But if someone is talking to you, a Christian, about the problem of evil, well, it disproves your God. You know, the one you said gives a shit about life. Yeah, that guy is bullshit when you actually compare his supposed wants to the way the universe actually works. Funny that.
But at very best, that is only disproving or discrediting his character, which again, I could flip that right around on you and show how evil does point to a loving God.
Okay, do it then. I mean, if you can do that, that would be a pretty good counter and actually make it so that you would want them to make this point so that you could do a big clever at them. So go on, go ahead, yeah?
5.
Guy goddamn knew it. I could totally do that. I just don't want to. Yeah, of course, mate. It's not that you don't have a girlfriend. It's that she lives in Canada, near your uncle that works for Nintendo. Remember the whole thing about extraordinary claims? Yeah, I have a super smart argument, but I'm not going to tell you. Falls exactly into the category of shit I'll believe when I see it. AKA never.
Stop saying science disproves God. Even when you go to your most notable atheists, they realize, and this was the foundation of the new atheist movement, they realize science cannot disprove God.
Realize? Dude, who the hell are you even talking to? Yeah, science can't disprove things that are unfalsifiable, ideas that are so beyond realms of testable reality, they are literally outside of it, as in they don't exist at all. We have known this since before any of you lot did. It's not a revelation, it's one of many reasons to think, this God clam sound like trash.
And so please stop claiming that science disproves God. Like I said previously, you gotta either have mind from matter or matter from mind. Creation explains the concept of consciousness in abstract thought. What is love?
Baby, don't hurt me. No, damn it, that keeps on happening. And you see, you have fallen right back into the we know that this thing doesn't disprove the concept of any god, but it does a pretty astounding job of making your god sound like the joke that it is. These things are explained not by made-up-ismo, but are in fact explained again by science, over and over and over again, making your claim that God done it, so I'm real, sound like, well, not very smart if I'm being super nice.
How can two people look at one abstract painting or art, one love it and one hate it?
Now, I know you are not trying to use subjectivity to demonstrate an objective creator right now, asshole.
Mathematics, all these things, naturalism cannot explain. Science cannot explain.
Aside from the fact that, yeah, it can explain the vast majority of things discussed, but even the things that it can't are either just cases of not being there yet, or things that are outside the bounds of what science is even trying to do. And no one who knows what they're talking about even thinks that it would.
Science may be able to explain how we use the atomic bomb, but science can't explain if we should. Why should it be used or not used?
I mean, if it were to suddenly stop this video, I wouldn't complain. Just saying.
Science only deals with the natural world, not the supernatural, which I propose you and I both have to believe in a supernatural, beyond natural world.
Actually, no, I don't. Human moral conclusions are all perfectly understandable and explicable by natural processes. Humans want to survive, and humans don't want to suffer. Most, if not all, universal moral conclusions are based on those two basic premises. And they have felt that way since way before any modern religious premise was even thought up by some asshole trying to explain how things work, while having no idea how any of it worked. So yes.
6. Again, please stop saying there's no historical evidence of Jesus with Josephus, Pliny the Younger, Tacitus, Lucius of Samosata. You have the Talmud. You have all these authors and writers, plus you have the early church fathers. Please stop saying the historicity of Jesus is inaccurate.
Hey, I saw that, dipshit. You just made two completely different claims. One is that there is no historical record of Jesus, which, of course, is not true. Obviously, there's old things that say a guy called Jeebus was around at the time. But then you changed the request from that to don't say it's inaccurate, which is a wildly different premise. Of course people are going to question these things' accuracy and authenticity. The fact that they exist isn't a problem. You keep doing this. You make a claim that no one says, and then change it to a reasonable refutation that you probably even agree with, and then pretend that they're the same thing. What is wrong with you?
Even your notable atheists recognize that, yes, he was a historical person. Please stop using that.
No, I will in fact not stop telling you that the idea of the historical Jesus and Magic Man is historically incoherent. Thank you very much.
7. Stop arguing that religion does not provide any sort of scientific advancement. Let me read you off some names. You probably already heard of Isaac Newton, Johann Kepler, you got Louis Pasteur, Ernest Walton, Raymond Damadian. There are numerous people of religious faith that provide scientific advancements, medical advancements, things like that.
From your own argument, you just demonstrated that religion did none of that. People did it. Were they religious? Probably. Would they have made the discoveries they did without religion? Well, those specific guys, who the hell knows? But someone would have, as many people have, as many advancements have come in our at least partially post-religious, or at least religious necessitated world. Almost like religion was never required in the first place.
Please stop saying religion doesn't provide scientific achievements, because it does.
You know, it's very funny that you didn't make the stronger, but still stupid, rebuttal of, well, various religious institutions supported science. But again, that doesn't mean those discoveries were made because of that specific worldview's particular tenets. That is not how that works.
Number 8. Stop saying and asking the question, who created God, when you have the same problem yourself. We both have to explain the beginning. We both have to explain the origins. But our Christian worldview provides a better clarity of the first cause than the secular worldview does.
Well, aside from the fact that putting a god that wasn't created but always was simply adds an unnecessary step to the process of, well, let's just say the universe wasn't created but always was. You know, talk about muddying the water. But let's say that you're right and your explanation is more clear. What makes you think that makes it correct? There are plenty of very simple and obvious basic explanations for things that are simple and, you know, clear, but are of course, and this is important, wrong. I'm sorry, friendo. I will take hard, murky explanations that are difficult to understand, but closer to reality than an easy breezy bullshit answer every single time.
9. Please stop claiming that only stupid people are atheists. Please stop saying only stupid people or brainwashed people or indoctrinated people turn out to be theists.
Hey, I resemble that first part. Me am big stupid, but not because, or the cause of, my atheism. It's mostly because the people of the world make my brain hurt many much. And okay, but I don't say that. I know it's not only stupid people. But of course no one says that, at least not in all seriousness. They do say it to piss off the brainwashed, stupid, indoctrinated ones. But the question that you need to ask yourself is, why did you feel the need to qualify it with only? Meaning that you know a lot of people who subscribe to your beliefs are those things. Almost like most people need to be those things in order to believe nonsense.
Theism has nothing to do with intellect, okay? You have Andrew Kamal, you have Christopher Hirata, you have Rick Rosner. 3 people with some of the highest IQ scores we know of. And they are each theists, okay? So please stop saying that theism is only a faith for dumb people.
Let's just ignore the fact that an IQ above about 160 is generally considered incredibly difficult to track in any way, shape or form. I mean, I'm not saying that they're all lying frauds or anything, but you know. But even if 100% true, smart people can be wrong. And more presciently, you know what smart people are really, really good at? Justifying stupid beliefs, especially ones that they want to be true. Being smart does not make you rational, and they can make the dumbest shit that you've ever heard almost sound plausible, at least if you don't know anything about the subject. If you do, you often find that they have a really bad habit of misinterpreting, misconstruing, or out and out misrepresenting facts about reality. Not exactly the kind of people that I'd want to have on my side.
Back your arguments up with stats, with rational explanations and proofs.
You first, dumbass.
Finally, number 10.
Finally is doing a lot of heavy lifting there, my goodness. Right, let's get through this. It can't be dumber than the rest of them, right?
Please stop regurgitating, okay? Now, I understand Christians on the other side, sometimes we regurgitate too, but please do your own research, okay?
Wow, at least there was some self-awareness with his projection, but damn. And you know what, dude, I wouldn't mind, but when you say do your own research, what you clearly mean is research things that agree with what I say already. And that's not research, that's leaning into your ridiculous confirmation bias. The funny thing is, ultimately, I have no problem with theists using any arguments, these or otherwise, even though I think that they're all terrible, because I can just refute them and move on. But seeing as you're obviously failing so hard to refute any of these things you're complaining about, well, you're going to find that that is definitely a you problem and not an us problem. Maybe you should get a bit better, or at the very least, get over it.